had years an opportunity to inaugurate a president. We did so today peacefully, and it occurs every 4 years, thank God. And today we will say our Pledge of Allegiance and offer a short moment of silence after that for all those who have passed from COVID. We learned today that a lieutenant in the police department in Suffolk County has passed. So please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a short moment to silently remember those who have passed because of COVID. Thank you. Tonight is a relatively short agenda, as is typical of January. Gordon will be doing his superintendent's report and then the budget presentation for January. That involves, as noted on the agenda, central office, central printing, BOCES charges, transportation, technology, and debt service. Thereafter, there will be a 15-minute community questions for the agenda. And then number 9 at the end will be a questions on matters outside of the agenda. So I can't see Gordon in my screens. Gordon, if you're ready to get going.
Bob, there might be a little bit of a delay. Gordon just called me on the phone. He's having a little trouble getting in. So we're waiting for him.
Oh, all right. Well, why don't we do this so that we can be expeditious with our time. When you have questions, please present them with your name. Steve is going to assist us by going through them. Indicate your question, your name. If they're a particular group of topics, we'll try to answer them in a group. But we've done that before, so I think you're relatively used to that. Oh, I see Gordon.
Gordon has arrived.
Gordon just needs to unmute.
Thank you, Bob.
Gordon was in a cathedral or something. I'm not really sure where Gordon is.
I would love to be in a cathedral.
Yes. All right, Gordon, we're up to your superintendent's report, and then if you would continue on into the budget presentation. Ken, will you proceed with the PowerPoint?
I will do that.
Okay, what we have here is I put together for the board and the community to show what we do every day, what we do weekly regarding our COVID numbers, our COVID and quarantining numbers. I know that the community is used to looking at the state report, which only gives you a little snippet of information, although I will show you how much information they want from us. But each principal, and I want to thank Mr. Pramataris, Ms. Hine, and Mr. Catlin for agreeing to use the same format. So each week, the end of the week, and that's where you'll see weekly reports, I send to the board the totals for the week. Although they report to me daily their additional COVID staff, students, and explain the quarantining and when the student was in school last. So I'm going to show you some of these things because it's quite a bit of information that we gather so we can examine it. We can look for trends, the impact of COVID on the building, the district. We can compare buildings. It gives us quite a bit of information to employ here. So Ken, if you please go to the next slide, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, this is one of our buildings. I'll take you through it. You'll see these are the cases of COVID, okay? So you'll see staff and students from this particular building. On that week, it was a good week. We only had 2 staff, no students, so there's a total 2. And then how much did we have to quarantine though? This is the thing that I don't know if everyone realizes the impact of these cases. So we had to quarantine 3 staff and 39 students as a result of those cases. Just 2 cases, but it had great impact. So a total of 42 people had to be quarantined. Then of course, down below on the last box, in the last box, you'll see the totals. 5 total, 39 students separated, and then the total population 44. So that's what it looks like. Each building, Ken, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Ken. Again, not bad. In the next building, staff at the end of the week, 5 students at the end of the week. So a total of 6 people are COVID positive in that building. Quarantine, fortunately, you didn't have to quarantine any staff other than that 1 person. But students, 23 and 4 were exposed. So I think you're getting the hang of it. Ken, if you go to the third one for our buildings, please. Thank you, Ken. COVID, 1, 3, total of 4. But what you'll see is a number of students that have to be quarantined as a result of those particular people being COVID positive. And then, of course, we keep the percents on the right. So actual COVID cases on top, quarantines, totals on the bottom. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of information that the buildings have, and at their fingertips, they can compare each week. Principals share these things. I'll be sending them, like I said, to the board on Friday. Ken, next slide, please. Now, the daily reports. So you see what the principals do. They report to me daily. That's the weekly report that you saw. But daily district office collects information from the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. Every day, we have to do 3 reports that go to the state. Now, they ask for all of this information that you see here. For example, how many students received full-time in-person instruction on that day? How many students were remote only on that day? Estimated number of students, teachers, staff enrolled on site for the day. I mean, it's quite a bit of work because it changes all the time based on attendance. And they go into detail, but the community does not have privy access to these details. So we report this every day to the state. All 3 buildings covered, 1 report per building, and it takes a considerable amount of time, but it gives us a lot of information in addition to what I just showed you in the building reports. Ken, next slide, please. Now, other than the principals giving the information, I print on my daily COVID update. I give a report, but it's just a daily report. I also send a daily report to the board. And if you look on my website, you'll see when the person was in the building last, what the numbers are that day. For example, today, if you looked at the update, we had a pretty good day. We had no additional staff and students in the high school, no additional staff and students in the middle school, and 1 student in the elementary school. The last few days have been pretty good. However, right after the weekend, we had a number of cases. But as you can see, we gather a lot of information to use, look for trends, impact on the building, impact on the district, impact staff and students. We find this information valuable. Bob, question?
Just want to point out, this information, as Gordon points out, is valuable because if you look at the community rates and how that's derived, it may not necessarily tell us the complete picture. It might be slightly behind, This is as it's happening for us, and it allows us to look at what's happening in our building, what's happening per grade, what's happening in a particular wing of the building, so that we can guide ourselves forward, particularly in our plans to proceed with further phases. We can look at this in addition to what the community rates are and what the state gives us. But this is directly related inside our building. This is what's happening. We've seen it pop up. This is a trend going down. So that's a very positive sign. What affects us and is beyond just the issue of whether or not someone's positive or not is sometimes the impact of a quarantine. It can be caused by a staff person, it can be caused by a student, and it could have a small effect, it could have a large effect, and that's something we look at as well.
Right, and Bob, you'll recall this past weekend, the nurse contacted me and the principal. They were notified via email from a parent that there was a student tested positive on the weekend, and even the principal and the nurse did contact tracing on Saturday, so we'd be ready for school when we returned on Tuesday. So, you know, it is pretty a never-ending job, but you know, we've got to be on it. Okay, we want to move to the next report, Bob?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ken, we'll get ready for the budget workshop.
Give me just a second here.
Sure.
There it is. Okay. Share screen. There it is. Okay. Boy, oh boy.
Hey, great, Ken. Okay, this is they're actually the first of our budget presentations. As everyone knows, we go through May. The board has to approve that budget as a final hearing in May. The board approves the budget in April. And for tonight, in February and March, we go into detail about each part of the budget. So tonight, we're dealing with the Board of Education, Central Administration or District Office, Insurance. That's insurance for the whole district, Central Printing, BOCES administrative charges, transportation, technology, and debt service. Okay, Ken? As you can see, tonight is a smaller part of the budget, it's just 12%. And when you look at that piece of pie, you'll see that the largest piece of the 12%, it's not surprising, it's transportation. And again, we'll lay that out, all the specifics for you in a minute. All right, Ken? Typical terms, we know what the budget is, revenue money coming in. The important definitions, appropriated fund balance, that's what we take from our available fund balance, which is like our bank account, and we appropriate money to balance the budget. So the more we put in there, the budget needs, the less we have in our bank account, the available fund balance. We know the governor bestowed upon us that 2% tax cap mandates. The state's making them all the time. More recently, they insisted that we have a data protection officer to overlook and license all of the companies we deal with, or tax levy and tax rate, common terms. Ken? Okay, basically the first piece, the Board of Education and District Office put it simply that this is the money required to run the business of the district, the operation of the district. And we'll get to the specifics right now. Ken, please. Okay. Most of that money for the board is that what it's used for is to pay the dues for the New York State School Board Association. District clerk, you can see what her office is, same as last year, $1,300. Then I'll move to district meetings. The thing that we always plan in case the budget fails and we go out for an additional vote, have more money put aside in case we have to run that vote. Or should we put a bond up? We cover it. And what costs additional money now is everything we put out regarding voting has to be translated into Spanish. So we print it in English and Spanish, and that's that $35,000 mark. Chief Administrator, that's me. I'm down. I reduced my budget from last year. And also, you have Linda's office, the Business Administrator, same as last year. Auditing, same as last year. And that's, we have external and internal auditors that we hire and pay. The treasurer, same amount as last year. Now, the next is purchasing. We have a company, Ed Data, who does our bidding for us. That's who we pay there. Now, the next person, fiscal agent fee. To do our borrowing for our TANs or tax anticipation notes, since we don't get the money from those taxes until January, we have to borrow money. This person does that for us, runs our TANs, and does our paperwork for the Security Exchange Commission. Legal, all of our lawyers' fees, and actually that's reduced a little bit. Personnel, a little reduction there. Public information and services, the same. When you add up all these categories for the Board of Ed, Central, the business of the district, we're down $2,000. Ken? Savings is savings. Okay. Central printing, as I say every year, we lease all of our copiers for the entire district. The insurance is big, especially now that we've added additional cyber insurance. If we all remember what happened a year ago, last November, when they tried to hack into our system. But this insurance is for everything, including liability, umbrellas, auto for our vehicles, student accident insurance. But the thing is, we really jacked up our cyber insurance in case that could ever happen again, because it really helped paying the bills last time. Oh, you can go right to the chart, Ken. Thank you. Okay, central printing stays the same as last year at $90,000. Insurance, Linda plans about a 5% increase in our insurance coverages. So that's up 5,000. And every year we have to explain what this is. BOCES administration charges. Bob said it well when he said BOCES is a co-op. All the school districts deal with BOCES. This is basically paying our share of the co-op to use BOCES services. So $275,000 to belong to BOCES, but each service we use that BOCES provides, there's a separate payment for those as well. So these categories result in a hike of $10,000. Ken? Technology is our next one. Ken knows this well. Okay. Equipment, and I'd like to point out, because obviously going to live streaming, kids needing computers and devices at home. Next year is the first year of the real startup for one-on-one computers, and that covers grades 9 through 12. So we're going to do a large kickoff start off next year with every student in grades 9 to 12 will get a laptop. So this first year cost for that, setting them up, everything else. But even with that start off, we're down a little bit in equipment, Ken, thanks. Contractual, we're down. Material supplies down a little. The biggie is the software. Now the software, again, security, not just like our security insurance for the system, but this now software to protect our system. We heavily invested into that. And also, Ken, when we had to go up and go into live streaming and our teachers teaching live to the homes of our kids, we needed extra software and equipment for that. And BOCES, as I said, we have the fee to join BOCES. That was on the page before. This is what we're paying BOCES for technology. So everything considered here for technology, there's an increase of $15,900. Want to say anything, Ken?
I think you covered it.
Okay. So you're
Thank you, Bud.
You're welcome. Next page, please, Ken. All right, transportation. I showed earlier the pie. The biggest piece of pie in tonight's 12% discussion is transportation. We always, Linda, every year estimates that CPI, cost of living, is going to go up about 2%. Actually, last May, and that's what we used, the CPI in May, was 1.4%. So we did save some money planning at 2. You never know what it's going to be, though, because it happens in May. But we did save money as it came in 1.4%. But we generally plan on a 2% hike in transportation, which is pretty elaborate. And you'll see that when Ken puts that on the screen. Ken? Okay. District Trans Service is up above. That's our person, district officer, who handles transportation. That's to handle office supplies and the rest, that $2,000, which stays the same. Regular transportation for the district, again, keep in mind, Linda plans on a 2% hike for about each category here. So you'll see that that transportation is up 20,000. Although we didn't use athletic transportation last year, we may be using it this year. So we plan on that expense, put it aside. We're hoping that 21-22 is somewhat of a normal year. If we can get back to that with sports and activities, that stays at 182. OCAD transportation to BOCES for our students, again, up 2%. Out of district special ed, where they go to other school districts that have programs that we do not, that stays the same. Non-public transportation to parochial and private schools, 2% hike. In district special needs, this is important to note, there is a reduction here. And every year when we do the budget, we look at what we expect our special education population to be. So with less students, there's less need for transportation in that area. So, but again, I say it every year, a few students might move into Mount Sinai this spring over the summer, and that savings can dissipate. Now, if we have late buses, our non-public parochial and private schools have to have late buses as well. That always starts a little bit of a controversy. That basically is the same contingency. Linda always puts money aside in case we have to put on another bus or so with that 100,000. All said and done, you have a $20,000 savings due to the special needs students at present, the population. And it's always, you can't say enough, whatever we get in our special ed population is whatever we put in there. There's no budget. And we never say to our director, Doris Stanijev, look, this is what all you got to spend, no more than this. Whatever the needs, IEPs, our population needs, they get. We don't cut special ed budgets. Okay, Ken, please. Okay, all district bond payments. And I want to get my little piece of paper here because basically We have 3 bonds that are still out, and I will explain those. We have a bond from 2005, which was at the high school, track and lighting in 2005. That's paid up in the year 23-24. The second bond that we're still paying is for an elementary roof. That bond was secured in 2007, and that will be over at the end of 21-22. Then there was a new gym in the Mount Sinai Middle School in 2010, and that doesn't expire until 29-30. So there are 3 bonds we're still paying on at this point. Tax anticipation notes, Linda, that's the money we borrow until we get that money back. And Linda figures the interest is 3%. And the financial, we get good ratings. We haven't been rated a district in fiscal crisis for 3 years. I just got the letter yesterday. We are in good shape, which is good for us when we borrow money. Ken, would you flick to the next slide, please? Okay, so the first 2 I should speak about together: debt service principal, debt service interest. That's what we're paying on our loans on the 3 bonds. And what happens, you'll see that the principal looks like it's going up for 21-22. And then the next line looks like the interest is going down. What happens there is they kind of play with it, so our payment is consistent always. So at times the principal will go up, interest goes down, interest goes up, principal goes down. So they kind of work together. Linda borrowed more money for the TAN and figures with the interest that we need. So that's just to be prepared and cover it when we have to pay it back. We have 0 installment debt. We paid off 2 trucks for the district. And then the energy performance contract, which we came out in like 2013 and won't be paid off till quite a few years from now. I think 26, 27, it expires. That stays the same every year. And that's that slide. So now we just summarize the categories. Administrative, I told you that that's basically decreased a couple $1,000. That's the district office, that's the Board of Education. And then we have special items, central printing, insurance, where we estimate a 5% hike. BOCES administrative charge, that went up. And cyber insurance. So that was a $10,000 increase there. Technology, we just explained, that's a hike from 444 to 460. Transportation is down a bit because of what we're saying right now, our current special ed population. And the debt service is up because of the TAN's interest. So basically, the overall 12% of tonight's budget, there's an increase of $17,000 over last year. Slide, please, Ken. All right, that's the little piece we just covered. We have a long way to go to a $60 million budget. Next slide, Ken. That's okay. That's okay. It just repeats on what it went up. So 17,000. Next meeting is February 10th, only 3 weeks from now. We'll be talking about pupil personnel services, our building principals budgets, which we're examining very closely next week. Instructional and adult ed and driver's ed. Adult ed and driver's ed generally are paid for themselves, don't cost us. Instruction is the big thing, principals budgets. Already we know that we're going to have to take a sharp pencil to some of those. And that's what we do. What we do is we look at the budgets, we bring in the principals and say, listen, we've got to do better than that. And it goes back and forth. So that'll be in 3 weeks. We're back again for our next board meeting. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for being the page turner.
You're welcome.
Just to comment on the budget today and as we go forward, it's presently probably the least information we have had in many years. There is little or no indication of what will happen from Albany, and our aid is dependent on what happens from Albany. So as we go through this, January's is pretty straightforward. It's contractual. It tells us whether it's a cost from BOCES, the bus company, or otherwise. As we go forward in this, we will have some estimates, and we may have some estimates and alternatives that we have to look at, depending on where we stand in terms of aid going forward. So February and March are going to be quite a challenge this year in terms of predicting where we're going to be budget-wise going forward. If you have questions with regards to the superintendent's report, which was on the COVID reporting charts, or the budget presentation, or any of the items on the agenda, if you could present them now. I'll ask Steve if you can cull through some of these, if they're related to the agenda or the budget.
We have a couple related to COVID and scheduling. I don't know if you want to do those now or near the end of the meeting, Bob.
That's up to Gordon. Gordon, you want to? Gordon keeps dropping off my. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, our first one is from Karen Pitka related to educational time. Can the board look into the current plan for the amount of teaching time, including special area instruction, music, art, phys ed, for when classrooms are quarantined?
Yes, I can.
Get to that. And I'm glad that topic came up. Thank you, Mrs. Pitka. When we quarantine, there is an impact, and we lose not just the core classes, but we lose some of the other important parts of the day for the students' instruction. And that's something to be keeping in mind as we quarantine. That affects more than just the core classes. We are looking at some options to expand and to see if we can do that. And let's see what we can come up with in the next few weeks as we come into February and March. Steve?
We have three questions related to the upcoming change in schedule. The first is actually a comment from Joanne Rentz, thanking us for working hard to get the 7 to 12 back in for 4 school days. And I'm sure we'll manage this well for the kids. From Chris Chamberlain, why are we using a remote day on Monday for the high school if we are contact tracing over the weekend? Are all the students getting the appropriate amount of instruction?
Actually, the administrators thought Monday was good, and I agree. I wish I had the figures on what we came back to on Tuesday. The COVID figures in the middle school and elementary, they're quite high. This way, we didn't put it in the middle of the week because we wanted 4 contiguous days of instruction, straight through. Rocky Point breaks that up and has the remote day on Wednesday. We thought the best day would be Monday so we could deal with COVID, contact tracing, and it looks like what we've seen in the last few weeks, that's a pretty good pick. It gives 3 days for the building to cool down, so to speak, from the COVID, and the administrators can do their thing, but the teachers will still be giving extra help in the morning and teaching according to the schedule in the afternoon. A lot of people think it's a day off for them, so they get a 3-day weekend. That is absolutely not true. They'll be working, but they thought the 4 days of school, and our teachers voted for that too, was the best way to go. 4 straight days.
And lastly, we had a follow-up question, which I believe you just answered, and I'm just going to use this as a moment. Please, when you're typing in questions, put your first and last name in so I know who's asking it. The follow-up was asking about the delay, why there's the delayed start on the Mondays, and I believe you just answered that as well.
Yeah, the extra help set and contacting their fully remote kids first.
And the other
No
ones
other
are
questions, Steve?
We have some sports related. I think we can probably take those at the end.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the personnel matters. Resignations and leaves. Resignations, number 1. Pete, would you take that, please?
Resignations, leaves. Number 1, resignation, Teresa Moeller. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation for retirement purposes of Teresa Moeller, math teacher, effective at the conclusion of the 2020-21 school year.
May I have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? All in favor indicate by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa, would you please do number 2?
Sure. Resignation, Audra Falco, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation for retirement purposes of Audra Falco, guidance counselor, effective at the conclusion of the 2020-21 school year.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Any comments? I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to comment on both teachers before we move on to the others. Teresa has been a part of our math department for many years, certainly has contributed greatly to our students, and I want to thank her for all her time and her effort. My daughter had her, and she will be missed. Audra Falco is a foundation in the guidance department. If your children's have had her for their guidance counselor, they're very lucky. It's a great team we have in the guidance department, and I, for one, will certainly miss Miss Falco and wish her well, a consummate professional. All in favor of the resignation of Miss Falco indicate by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to the resignations. Rob, would you do number 3 and 4?
Resignation of Jessica Pirro. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation of Jessica Pirro, school district aide, effective December 21st, 2020.
May I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any comments? All those in favor indicate aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I would, Rob, would you mind moving on to 4 as well?
Okay, resignation of Sheila Otto. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation of Sheila Otto, school district aide, effective January 12th, 2021.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Again, if I could use this as an opportunity to offer a comment. Our aides are our forward-facing frontline workers, always there with our children. And frankly, they take care of our children beyond what we could even know. And I like to thank all of them, and especially Jessica Pirro and Sheila Otto. Thank you for your service, and thank you for working with our children. May I have us, let's have a vote on Ms. Otto. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ed, would you take 5, please?
Leave of absence, Jamie Regal. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the leave of absence request of Jamie Regal effective February 1st, 2021 through the conclusion of the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, Ed. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? All in favor indicate by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. B, appointments. Anne Marie will take the appointments, please.
Sure. Substitute teachers. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the following appointments. Catherine Lutchen, appointment date 1/6/21 as a substitute teacher, $175 a day compensation. April Murray, employment date 1/6/21, also a substitute teacher at $175 a day. And Corey Testa, 1/6/21 as a substitute teacher, compensation of $175 a day.
Thank you, Anne Marie. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor, please indicate aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. School District Aide, Caitlin Jensen, number 2. Ed?
School District Aide Caitlin Jensen, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the following appointment of Caitlin Jensen effective January 21st of 2021 as a substitute school district aide at $14 an hour.
May I
Second.
have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ron. Any comments? All in favor, indicate aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, in the appointments, coaching appointments, Pete?
Coaching appointments resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent. The Board of Education hereby approves the following appointments. I'm going to name them because I think they're all significant coaches in our community. Eric Giolando, the 1st of January 2021, varsity boys track, step 9. Lee Markowitz, January 4th, 2021, assistant varsity boys track, step 9. Bill Dwyer, January 4th, 2021, varsity girls track, step 26. Don Slingerland, January 4th, 2021, assistant varsity girls track, step 6. Corey Testa, January 6th, 2021, volunteer track. And Scott Ray, January 4th, 2021, assistant coach. Can I just make a comment? Don Slingerland is a Hall of Fame coach from Port Jefferson, and I'll disclaim my wife is an employee of the Port Jefferson School District. Don Slingerland has come to Mount Sinai when Port Jefferson kind of just was letting him retire, and Mr. Ray added to the considerable talent of Bill Dwyer, and Don Slingerland is an outstanding coach to help our students.
I'd also like to add a comment that Coach Sling not only helps the girls, he has stepped in to help the boys, and he is just a wonderful addition to officially become part of Mount Sinai's coaching staff. My sons just learned a lot from him. Great guy.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's have a second first. We've done the comments out of order, but we'll have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor, indicate aye.
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 Steve, would you take action items A, special education?
Committee on Special Education. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education has no objection to the following special ed recommendations and approves the authorization for the funds to implement the special education program and services consistent with such as listed.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? All in favor, indicate aye.
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 And action items 8, obsolete equipment. Lisa?
Obsolete equipment resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby declares the following equipment as obsolete and recommends disposal as listed.
I think it's interesting in January just to offer a comment that we're getting rid of scales. I think that just says something about all of our resolutions up until now. Sorry. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor, please indicate by aye.
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 Okay. Steve, our general questions, if you don't mind?
Sure. We have a couple. First, there's two actually related to sports. First is from Brad Arrington. The high school baseball team was recently told they cannot hold indoor practice in any location. How will the district ensure teams can hold practices in some manner in an equitable arrangement? For example, the girls lacrosse team is currently holding outdoor practice on the high school turf field. And just before you answer that, there's a secondary one that's almost similar, so I put them together. Joanne Rentz also commented she was alerted to the fact the board determined players were not able to practice baseball. Parents were going to pay privately for an outside facility. Can we provide reasoning? So I think the two go hand in hand.
Just so I can get clarification, the restriction was for indoor practice. So I'm not sure with regards to the outdoor practice. Maybe I could toss that to Gordon, because my understanding was indoor practice was restricted, not outdoor.
Right, like most school districts, indoor is not happening yet, but we opened the gates to the sports to practice outside. I don't know if Scott's taking season by season, but I can talk to him about this. There are no restrictions from the board on the teams practicing together. We even, at the beginning, they were in cohorts practicing. Now the cohorts are combined. So in that whole decision, outdoor was fine. As far as I know. So let me look into the baseball piece. But indoors, the board did not approve that at this time, but outdoors should.
Gordon and Bob, I believe Scott is
Scott's on the call.
Yeah. So if Scott has the opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, all the teams, any team can, as per the board, any team can practice outside. Boys football started 2 days ago. Boys lacrosse went today. Basketball went yesterday. Girls lacrosse is going tomorrow. Any team can participate outside. As per the board, no teams are permitted to participate inside.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott, the process is so that we have it. The coach has to submit a activity proposal. It's a form that goes through the athletic director and on to the district office. So they have to complete that for each activity. If there's going to be pitchers practicing or something else, they have to break it down and submit it by activity that outlines what their procedures are, but that's the same for everybody else. So maybe they could, Scott, maybe you could follow up with if there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding. Outdoor practice, we are monitoring through our own numbers, if you saw early on, but we're encouraging outdoor practicing and are happy that we're moving in that direction.
Bob, I just want
Steve,
to.
next set of questions.
There was a follow-up to it, and I think Gordon actually touched on it, and Scott kind of did as well. I think the question was actually about regarding to baseball, and Scott, you just mentioned it's based on seasons. So the coach of the baseball team told them they wouldn't be practicing until 2 weeks before the season starts, which I believe makes sense, Scott, based on the amount of space we have. You're going season by season with sports. Am I incorrect on that?
You're kind of incorrect on that. Any team can participate outside as of per the board right now. You know, that's what Bob had said. So again, any team can participate outside. The problem is the weather. I am asking that the board allows indoor practices. Thus, baseball can throw at night. Softball can throw in the gym at night. Lacrosse, if we follow the correct guidelines. So again, any team can practice outside. The board at this point is not allowing the teams to participate inside. I am asking that the teams be allowed to participate inside on a schedule and assuming that they follow the social distancing guidelines. I'd rather have the teams participate at Mount Sinai as opposed to going outside somewhere else where that we cannot monitor them.
And that's why the board is examining over the next month or so what our activities are, what our rates are. Our priority is moving forward with academics. We're moving to 4 days in person. As Gordon has indicated, the last weekend, as we came off this 3-day weekend, we saw a spike in our internal numbers, and therefore we're going to examine it going forward and see where we are in mid-March after we've rolled out each piece in a phase. And otherwise, they have access to outside practice, and then we will revisit this again going forward. I would encourage everyone to use the procedures that Scott has in place to outline what their proposal is. For example, they may have a small need for a particular indoor facility with 5 kids on a Saturday. The more we know ahead of time, the better. He'll be able to look at it and make recommendations to the board. Next question, Steve.
Okay, dovetailing on that, we're going from sports to fine arts. Jennifer Aquafreda, I apologize if I butchered your name. Are there plans to allow the high school drama club to put on a school musical this year? Miller Place has been successfully holding rehearsals in person.
This is the ancillary, at least in my opinion, that we should be looking at methods to do this and how we are going to do it. So I'll leave that to Gordon to address going forward because we'd like to see that. There might not be an audience, but there might be students.
Yeah, it's a timely question. I'll be meeting with Christina tomorrow about another matter, and I'll ask her about the spring musical.
Okay, this one actually came in after our first round of questions, but it's actually related to education and COVID. From Brad Arrington, substitute teachers related to COVID. We are seeing a decrease in instruction when substitute teachers are in place. For example, subs are not conducting virtual classes for hybrid students or instead showing movies. How can this be changed to ensure continuity of teaching?
I would recommend, again, that should not be happening, and I apologize. on behalf of the district that they're seeing movies, but I would contact the administrator of that building and say, what's the story there? Because depending on, we have given permission for teachers who aren't ill or too ill to teach from home live stream. We know we have a lot of that going on, but there shouldn't be a sub showing movies in a classroom. I highly recommend when a parent sees that to contact the building. That's the first I've heard of that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will do it, but the moment you see that, feel free to call the building. We shouldn't be having movies shown.
And I'm just going back through. That is everything that we've had for this evening's questions.
All right, thank you all for your participation and thank you for your comments. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all. Have a
Thanks, everyone.
good and
Have a
safe
good night.
evening.
Stay safe.
Good night.